YouTube, how y'all doing? So the other day, I watched a video by Sister Lisa Cabrera up in New Jersey, and she was talking about her visit to Europe, different countries she went to, and one of the countries she mentioned was Paris. And everybody, I've never been anywhere. I'm 52 years old, and I have to admit that I've never been anywhere except the East Coast of America. I've been to Florida. I've lived in West Virginia. I've lived in Durham, North Carolina. I'm from Maryland. I lived in D.C. I've been to New York, New Jersey. I've been to Pennsylvania, but I've never been to Midwest America. I've never been to the East Coast, and I've definitely never been out of the country. But Sister Lisa Cabrera, who resides in New Jersey, has been to Europe, and she's visited several countries in Europe. And one of the countries that she mentioned that she's visited was called Europe. And I was always, made to believe that, Paris is this really, really great, romantic, and just this really beautiful, special, I don't know, expensive, glamorous place to go to and visit for vacations and stuff. But according to her video the other day, uh, it's not true. And then I did some research and watched some other videos of not only of Edomites saying the same thing that she's saying. That Paris is not what it's been, what is constantly being portrayed is in the media. According to her and several Edomites, Paris stinks. It has a strong stench like pee. It smells like pee. So I went on, the internet and did some research, and I came across a very interesting article. It's a blog, France Travel Blog, and it's the title of it is "Why Does Paris Smell Like Pee?" Many people that are visiting Paris and walking the streets of the French capital expect many things. Unfortunately, the smell of pee shouldn't be one of them. So why does Paris smell like pee after all? Let's take a trip down memory lane before directing the problem. Paris pee box, the origins. In the 19th century in Paris, public urinals were the first places where homosexuals were feeling free to express themselves. Also, they become a space where resistance forces exchange secret messages undetected by the enemy. The Parisian society called these boxes pissers or Vespasians. Yeah, I can't really pronounce that word. At that time, and were placed on the sidewalks to meet the natural needs of men. They existed in the city of Paris from 1834 until the penultimate decade of the 20th century, specifically until 1984. The, they responded to the problem behind it in the city. Also, they were serving a social need since they were places of relationship encounters that were impossible or prohibited at other places. Four generations of homosexuals became independent there. There were almost 2,000 Vespians throughout Paris. The first urinals were placed in the parks. However, because they were so popular, they were quickly installed in various places. The more hidden the space was, the Vespians placed, the more things happened inside. Over the years, these urinals were also used as places to install state and private advertisements. On some occasions, the government carried out campaigns to prevent venereal diseases and install fences in all the thespians. They were also strategic places in politics. The resistance against the Nazi occupation used the urinals to transmit messages. They even kept weapons in the thespians that were later recovered by other fellow soldiers. In 1980, a change of direction in the rules of hygiene and parents made these urinals disappear. However, the culture of urinating in the street remained in the subconscious of the Parisian. So did the smell of pee in the streets of Paris. Main cause of the Paris smell problem. The French law says that public urination is a crime has not stopped the average citizen. Almost all places in Paris smell like urine. Avenues, alleys, squares, monuments, walkways of subway stations, among others. Wherever you are, the smell of urine will chase you. Well, to me, I'm from the Northeast, and I've been up and down, like I told you earlier in the video, I've been up and down the Northeast. And that's everywhere. DC, Maryland, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia. People piss, and you go to certain areas and the alleys it smells like piss. So I mean that I mean I don't know. That's just I don't know. Many factors in the city have not allowed the elimination of the urine problem in Paris. In the first place, the French like having dogs. When they take them out for a walk, they make their business in light poles and trees. Not to mention that you can find dog poop on any sidewalk. This increases the bad smell of the city. Well, that's the same thing in DC, Maryland, everywhere, and over here in America. People let their dogs release themselves everywhere and anywhere, and they don't clean it up. So, I mean, I still don't get it. That's everywhere. So let's go further into the article. Many families have a dog as a pet in Paris. There are even many pet friendly hotels in the city which accept tourists and guests with their dogs as pets. Second, there is very high deficiency of public toilets in the city. Unlike other cities in the United States, Australia, New Zealand, or Great Britain, where the location of a public restroom is indicated anywhere, in Paris there are no such signs. Okay, that may be the problem. This makes Parisians urinate when and where they need it. Okay, that's gross. That's disgusting. Humans shouldn't be forced to urinate in public. I don't care where they are. Thirdly, Paris is one of the European cities where there are many homeless people. Well, we have many homeless people over here in America. So I don't understand. These people usually sleep in the facilities of the city subway stations. Again, America, DC, New York, Virginia, Maryland, New York, I mean, wherever. Having a need to urinate, they do not seek a toilet. They simply pee wherever they want. Okay, well, that's something that sounds like America too. And fourth, Paris is a city that has many places for fun. People find bars and discos throughout the city. This makes many young people who frequent these places, when getting drunk, have the need to urinate in greater frequency. Okay, again, that sounds like America. They pee wherever they want. They don't mind breaking the law since their drunkenness doesn't make them realize what they're doing. It is good to know that police impose the fine of 68 euros to the people who they catch urinating in the streets of Paris. They have to pay it to the city. There are many men fined for this reason. Currently, the French government has established an alliance with a renowned French design company to develop the Uritar as a solution for public urination in Paris. It is a rectangular design decorated at the top with a charming flower arrangement. It has the advantage that it not only makes urinating in the street more civilized, but also ecological. Why don't they just put? We have urinating stalls over in America, but they usually only install those when there's some sort of a special event going on in the major cities. They put, urinals. They just need to have those all over. The goal is to install this urinal on sidewalks and places where historically have been receiving abundant urine. This container has a dry straw, sawdust, and wood chips with a high carbon contact that reduces the smell of urine. Once it is full, between 300 and 600 urine deposits, a sensor installed and the container gives an alert signal to a person who has the role of emptying the ureter. They will be taking the sawdust and urine mixture to a place where it is diverted to compost. This compost is transformed into fertilizer for flowers. They do not use it in crops for human consumption. At present, two models are being demonstrated at the Gate de Lyon train station in Paris and in two other cities in France. The company believes that people will use it quite frequently. Uritrol has been designed in two sizes, based on the fact that each deposition has an average of 450 milliliters of urine. The small size can absorb the urine of 300 people. The large size can absorb the urine of 600 people. To eliminate the strong smell of pee in the city, the Paris government has installed approximately 400 public toilets since 2006 that they call sanisets, which can be self-cleaning. Additionally, they hire workers who are responsible for disinfecting and deodorizing monuments, squares, and sidewalk walls per month. Well, they should do it over here in America, if you ask me. Do it all over America. Put public urine stalls all over, and to put sanitizer products in there so people can clean up after themselves. That way a lot of people won't urinate on the sidewalk. But despite the efforts they are making, unfortunately, urine leaks to the ground. and the smell remains specifically, especially in the summer when the sun squeezes hard. The issue of urine in the streets is still on the table today. Feminist organizations are campaigning strongly against the actions that the Paris government is taking. This is because their solution is focused on men. They are not considering the physiological needs of women. The Paris government is aware of what these feminist groups are proposing. However, they say it is much more complex to offer a solution that serves women given their status. Since last summer, the Paris government is providing to locals and visitors a convenient map. It directs the user quickly in the places where you can get a public toilet. They even develop advertising campaigns and large street signs to indicate where they can get public toilets. The main objective is to stop people from peeing in the streets. According to the website of the city of Paris, they offer a total of 750 public toilets. Still, that has not made men stop peeing on the street and therefore allows the I don't know why that happened, but they ignorant. He saw this. They do that to be mean. According to the website of the city of Paris, they offer a total of 750 public toilets. Still, that has not made men stop peeing on the street and therefore allows the smell of pee to remain. See, some people is mean and nasty. So you're right. It's installing public urinals won't stop ignorant people from peeing wherever they want to pee. But let us go here. I want y'all to see this video that Sister Lisa Cabrera made. I'm turning on right now. Let y'all watch it for yourselves. So y'all can see what's going on. What she was talking about.
Yeah, you'll never guess who. Let's just say she
without the damn commercials.
Her dream house.
If I get cut off, you'll know why. I hope we can get through this entire live stream. So there was a story that came out. Europe is not doing as well as you think, and to be honest with you, when you go back and look at the history, a lot of Europe was poor, especially during the time they came over here. They were poor over there. They weren't living large. And a lot of the people that sailed away from there, even including coming here to America, these were the poor criminal class. These were not the higher echelon people at all. These are people they were trying to dump off and get rid of. They didn't want them. But if you listen to them speak, they come from, they'll try to make you believe they come from all this wealth and all this stuff. So, the bottom line is we shall see at the end how this is going to turn out. They could be reverting back to the way they actually were initially. And it was poor. Europe don't have any resources. And before they hijacked Africa, what did they really have? They didn't have anything. And we all know this. We know their history. They don't come from greatness. They really don't. So let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen. Let me share it here. Now, let's talk a bit before I really get into this. If you can see my screen, please give me a 1. Give me a 1. Yeah, look, y'all, I've been to Paris. It was a long time ago. Paris, and I know it's still like that because I've seen a few stories online about people that went to visit and said they were disappointed. Paris is filthy, y'all. It is nasty. It's trash everywhere. If I had to describe the smell when you go into Paris, it smells like a combination of piss and garbage. And I am not exaggerating, y'all. It smells horrible in Paris. It stinks. Yes, I actually think it's worse than New York City. And New York City does stink. But no, Paris, I really feel is a lot worse. When you go on the outer skirts away from where the Eiffel Tower is, it's graffiti everywhere. You think you see a lot of graffiti in New York? The graffiti is everywhere, on buildings, on sides of the road. It's everywhere when you go into Paris. And some of the buildings that's standing around, you couldn't pay me to live in them damn apartment buildings. Those apartments look awful. They look terrible. And every now and then you'll get the white supremacist boasting, and he'll say things like, oh, well, everybody's trying to live in Europe. Oh, everybody's trying to be in Europe. Not really. The only reason why people flock to Europe, they flock for a number of reasons. Number one, a lot of the people that flock into Europe is because these folks in the Western nations have ruined their countries. So because you ruined their countries, they're going to come and invade on your country now. Go look at what some of these Arabs and stuff that left out of their homelands and went into these European nations, because you ruined their home. You ruined their land. So now they're going to come and invade yours. Same with the Africans. Y'all have raped out Africa of its resources and mistreated the people. So yeah, they're going to come and invade in your land now. And number two, you've lied to the entire world. It's just like when America tells people, oh, the streets are paved in gold. No, they're not. No, they're not. And then when they come over here, they get met with racism. And it's not what they thought it would be. See, they sell a fairy tale to the world about Western nations. They really do. And then a lot of people will come over, and it's nothing like what they were told at all. Nothing like that. So people are then stuck living here, and after a while, they don't even want to be here. That's why it's not unusual for you to hear about many of these foreigners coming. They'll make some money, and then they will pack up and go right back to their countries. They don't want to be here. Maybe they'll make money, and then they just skip on out of here. And America has really pampered a lot of these immigrants, especially over us. And they don't realize immigrants, if you got bombed tomorrow, these immigrants are going to hop the plane and leave. They're not going to stay and help you fight. They don't have no stake in America like that. They're going to just get on out of here. They're not going to help you do nothing. I'm not surprised. Yeah, they move here because of a fantasy. Just remember that. Just remember that. I was actually over there. Okay, I'm not telling you something from a story. I'm not telling you something from what I heard. No, I was actually on foreign soil. My 2 feet was on foreign soil. And I saw the conditions. When you go into Italy, I've been to Italy. Italy got slums. They got slums. Paris does too. They got slums. That's why when these people try to laugh about the inner city, let me tell y'all something. The inner city in America looks like paradise compared to the slums that you see over in Italy and Paris and places like that. And speaking of Ukraine, Ukraine is the poorest European nation over there. It is number one in being the poorest. But the people will come here and stick their nose up and act like they're better than somebody. And they're not. They're not. Or they'll talk about all that civilized stuff. If they were so civilized, then they wouldn't be listed as the poorest nation in Europe. Okay? It is so much for being civilized. So it's not what you think. It's not what you think at all, y'all. It is not what you think. And the people over there, they're something else. Oh yeah, you know what they do in Paris? When the city gets overran, they get overran by rats. Even to this very day, y'all. They get overran by rats. You know what they do? They put the rats on restaurant menus and start serving the rats to the public to get rid of them. They start eating them. That's their solution to getting rid of the rats. So if you hear about them overran, that means the restaurant's going to start capturing the rats and putting the rats on their menu. And yes, they do eat them. Yes, they do. I have been to Belgium. I have been to Austria. Lived in Germany for a while. Been to Paris. Been to Switzerland. I've been to those places. And let me tell you, it's not what you think. Like I said, they sell you a fantasy. They sell you a fantasy. If they show the slums to foreigners before they come, they probably wouldn't come. They know they can't do that. So they sell, oh, well, they come to Europe. Yeah, because you done propped it up and lied about it. Of course they're going to come. They believe the hype. They believe the lie. That's why when I hear them say, oh, well, y'all come to Europe. You don't go to Africa, you come to Europe. Yeah, but look at what you tell the world about the West. You're not being 100% honest. And that is the truth. So yeah, Paris stinks. It has a foul odor, y'all. And when you go there, they got all these little restaurants where you can sit indoors and outdoors like you see in this picture. And just the odor alone, I could never sit outside and eat in Paris. The stench alone would probably turn my stomach if I was eating outside and smelling the stench. So let's get into this story because, you know, Europe right now, their biggest population are the elderly. They have a big elderly population and they actually got a small population that's young. Europe probably have some of the oldest people across their nations. And America's really not that far behind because, you know, not among everybody, but among them folks, their biggest population are elderly people. Now, here's the difference. The elderly people in America are better off. They are way more better off than the elders in Europe. The ones in Europe don't have quite as much money as the elderly do here in America. And Europe has been suffering from a low birth rate since the 80s. Okay, they were suffering from a low birth rate as far back as the 80s. And this is 2023, so it's been going on for quite some time, y'all. I would say well over 40 years they've been struggling with a low birth rate. All right, so let's get into the story. So Europeans are becoming poorer. Yes, we're all worse off. So not only the old, but the young are also worse off,
Mhm.
right? So then came, the pandemic, and then the Russia-Ukraine war, which is going on. So Europeans are facing an economic reality, one they haven't experienced in decades. They are becoming poor. Life on the continent, long envied by outsiders because they have hyped it up. They have hyped it up, and they have not been 100% honest about what it's really like there, is rapidly losing its shine as Europeans see their purchasing power melt away. The French are eating less and drinking less red wine. The Spaniards are um, they are now backing off on using as much olive oil. They used a lot of olive oil in Spain, and they're even backing off from that. The Finns are being urged to use.
Have y'all been listening to what she's saying? She said there's trash all in the streets. I mean, I'm shocked at what I'm hearing, and I believe her because I've never been to Paris. But someone who's been there has no reason to lie. Trash all in the streets. She says they sell you a fantasy. I mean, she says that the stench is so horrible that she wouldn't want to eat out there. I mean, hear what she said about the olive oil. I mean, I'm just surprised at what I'm hearing because all of my life, I was led to believe that Clarence was the place to go. I would have thought it was a clean place. But it just goes to shows how deceptive Esau really, really is. How determined he is. Always making himself to be something that he ain't. He ain't crap. Listen to what she's saying. I've never heard anyone talk about Paris like this here, but I know for a fact Lisa Cabrera is an authentic person and she has no reason to lie. So I'm going to see with the video.
Saunas on windy days and when energy is less expensive across Germany. Meat and milk consumption has fell to its lowest level in 3 decades. And the one
Sound to me like Europe is under judgment. Just like America's under judgment. All these so-called Western European nations have come under judgment for what they've done to God's chosen, Yahweh's chosen people. And I'm glad, aren't you? Ain't y'all glad about it? You ought to be excited about it. Come on, let's continue.
booming market for organic food has tanked. Italy, Economic Development Minister Adolfo Urso convened a crisis meeting in May over the prices of pasta, so which was a big staple for the country. Pasta is big over in Europe, and that's falling. Even that's falling in the country. People are not.
Pasta? Who don't like pasta? That's their thing. If I'm not mistaken, I've never done a research, but aren't there Italy, Europe, the inventors of pasta?
Purchasing that as much as they used to. With consumption spending in free fall, Europe tapped into recession at the start of the year, reinforcing a sense of relative economic, political, and military decline that kicked in at the start of the century. So I want to show you, let me make this big. Let's see if I can make this bigger on the screen. All right. I'm gonna stop sharing just for a brief moment. See if I can get that on the screen. Okay. Okay, it seems like it's not opening. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it, y'all. Let me go back to sharing my screen. All right. There we go. All right, I'm not gonna worry about it. It's just a picture. It seems to be corrupt, but that's okay. That's not gonna stop me. Okay, so Europeans' current predicament has been a long time in the making, and an aging population with a reference for free time, job security over earnings, ushering in years of lackluster economic and productivity growth. And then came the 1-2 punch of the pandemic and the war that's going on between Russia and Ukraine by upending global supply chains and sending the prices of energy and food rocketing. The prices aggravated ailments that the festering, they said this economic problem has been festering for many decades. The government responses only compounded the problem to preserve jobs. They steered their subsidiaries, primarily employers, leaving consumers without a cash cushion. Americans, by contrast, what they did was they really benefited over here when the Europeans were suffering, and that's what's going on now. Actually, if you live in America, you're way better off than Europeans. You are. You are. So they're saying the sluggish recovery in China and critical market for Europe is undermining the growth pillar. High energy costs and rampant inflation at a level not seen since the 1970s are dulling manufacturer price advantage in international markets and smashing the continent's once was very good labor relations at one time that they had, and they don't have that anymore. So the resilience that Europe once had, they don't have anymore. They don't have it anymore. As a global trade cools, Europe's heavy reliance on exports, which account for about 50% of Eurozone GDP versus 10% for the US, is becoming a weakness. Private consumption has declined about 1% in the 20-nation Eurozone since the end of 2019 after adjusting for inflation, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Paris is a base club of primarily a lot of wealthy countries, In the US, where households enjoy a strong labor market and rising incomes, it has increased nearly 9%. European Union now accounts for about 18% of all global consumption spending, compared to 28% for America. 15 years ago, the EU and the US each represented about a quarter of that total amount. So, wow. So I want to tell y'all the poorest 10 nations in Europe. The poorest 10 nations in Europe.
One of the coolest things about Experian Boost is that it's free.
A given credit report, a given credit score, and
Like I said, it's amazing how these folks are poor, but they'll come over here and think they're better than us, don't they? Okay, so starting at number 10, as you can see right here, is Russia. Russia is the 10th poorest country in Europe. You know, when they were communists, you know, they actually collapsed. Russia collapsed as a nation. Bulgaria is the 9th poorest nation in Europe. But you know what? I saw something like this probably like 20 years ago. I saw something similar saying that Bulgaria was poor. Montenegro is also a poor nation over there. They sure make it look good. All the mountains and ships and boats in the water, and wow. Now, Serbia, I'm not surprised about. Serbia is the 7th poorest European nation. Population of 8.6 million. That's small. That's relatively small. That's small. All right. And Belarus, right over there by Russia. So it's a lot. And Bosnia Herzegovina, number 5. North Macedonia, number 4. Albania is number 3. Moldova, number 2. And guess who is the number 1 in the world? Ukraine, you know, with their Nazis and mistreating the Africans and believing they're better and civilized. They were heavily using the word civilized all over TV when that war broke out. But they are literally, y'all, the poorest nation in all of Europe. Go figure, right?
Where were you at? Well, where are you at the time?
It's amazing. So, you know, all of the professions over there, like a nurse, let's say, for example, over in Europe, they don't even make half as much as the nurses here in America. You know, that's why if you remember when the pandemic was going on, they were calling for nurses, and eventually they even were calling for the ones that didn't even live here out of desperation.
I don't know.
So let's go down a little further. You know, they're given all these examples. Here's another screenshot. So you can see, I can show you this one. I can show you this one. All right, so if you look at consumption spending, you can see right here it's a lot higher in the US, and you can see spending is declining in Europe. People are spending less because they don't have the money. They don't have the money. And their elderly population, they're really a poor population of people. Where you hear about our elderly, they got money saved and 401ks from their jobs and stock options and everything, so they're a lot better off. But over in Europe, the consumers